Good morning. Thank you for joining us once again. This is KTN Morning Express. On to a second segment. Well, yesterday, even as the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury was reading out the 2016-2017 budget, something else was happening at the Supreme Court, the swearing in of Joel Kitili as the Deputy Inspector General of the Police, replacing Grace Kaindi, who was ousted last year in September and given an ambassadorial position, something she contested, went to court, but as of now we understand that she agreed to settle the case out of court. But even with the uproar we saw yesterday on the social media with regards to this appointment, we just want to find out what those from the feeder and the females in the country feel about this particular decision, and that is why in studio I am joined by Josephine Mongare, who is the chairperson of Feeder Kenya. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good.
You're well?
Yes.
Thank you for joining us at this hour. And you've just had that introduction I've made there. What was your immediate reaction after the appointment of Joel Kitili?
To say that we were disappointed is an understatement. We're actually appalled that the Police Service Commission went ahead and replaced Grace with a man. Mm-hmm. When Kitili was hired last year in an acting capacity, mm-hmm. of course we contested, we went to court, we filed a suit, and we said that this is a position that should have been filled by a woman, even if Grace Kaindi had reached the retirement age. Now, if you notice that the Constitution requires that there be a transparent and accountable way of hiring the IG and his deputies. But this has been hush-hush. It's been done in the background. Sometimes last month, the National Police Service pulled out the names of the people who had applied last year when we went to court, and just interviewed in secrecy.
You have a problem with the fact that they held closed-door interviews?
Yes, this is the requirement in the Constitution, is that these positions must be filled in a transparent way, so that people are able to be held to account. Now, the fact that there was no public participation in itself is a violation of the spirit and the law of the Constitution. Under Article 27(8), the law requires that no more than 2/3 of one gender shall fill any appointed positions in Kenya. And that's why Grace Kaindi was the second deputy IG in compliance with that rule, which is now being violated.
Well, last year, that was, to be specific, September 2015, when President Uhuru Kenyatta made that announcement that he will be replacing Kaindi with GSU Commandant, now former, Joel Kitili, and gave Kaindi an ambassadorial position, just appointed her as an ambassador of the country. Grace definitely went to court, and your organization was among those that came out strongly to condemn that act by the president, and even being in support with Grace. But did you abandon it there?
No, we are still in court. The case has not been finalized. We are still in court, and that's why we are saying today that we have to go back to court and make sure that this is reversed. Because this is a gains that the women have earned through the struggle to get this new constitution in place. We cannot allow the states not to plow back those gains for the women of Kenya.
But we understand that the former deputy of the IG, Grace Kaindi, has agreed to settle out their issue out of court. Are you still going to go forward with it when
there are two different
the center
cases.
stage of this
there
case?
There are two different cases. There is a case where FIDA has sued as a petitioner. And what we are saying is that the principle must be upheld. And we are in court saying it doesn't matter who you hire. It is not about Grace Kaindi. It's about that position, that if the IG is a man and the other deputy is a man, then the second deputy must be a woman. So we are not in court to protect Kaindi's rights, because those are employment rights.
Yes.
We are in court to protect the principle that this position should have been given to a woman. We are aware that the National Police Commission actually interviewed 2 women who we believe are competent, have what it takes to have been able to replace Grace. And in any event, if you tailor a position to lock out a large majority of women, then of course you are creating discrimination, which is banned by our Constitution.
Last year, after that appointment was made, or that replacement was made by the president, there was a lot of uproar, not only on the social media organizations like yours, even in the public, and the amount of drama that ensued after that from Grace and what was in the office. But later on, the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Joseph Nkaissery, came out to just try and defend that decision by the president, saying they had to replace Kaindi with Joel Kitili because they could not find a woman suitable to hold that position. What do you think about that?
I don't believe it's a question of not finding a woman that is not suitable. Let us first of all agree between you and myself that these are administrative positions. They need not be filled by the police rank and file, which is what the argument by the CS has always been. I have had a discussion with the IG himself and the CS, and they still insist there are no women competent in the service. But who said they must give a woman in the service? We've had positions where Commander Hali, who was the police commissioner last, was hired from the military. What is wrong with going out there and getting a competent woman at this position? There are so many women in Kenya today. You cannot say that you cannot find, you don't have to find a serving policewoman, because that has been the argument, and that's the reason that they are hiding, to hire a man to say there is no woman at this rank. In fact, to quote the words of the CS, he told me this, that I cannot make a woman jump 5 ranks to give her to this position. But we're not saying that you must jump somebody 5 ranks. We are saying that there are women. Enlarge the TORs, the terms of reference, for this job, so that it becomes a management job, and give a competent woman. Get a woman from Kenya, get a woman from the academia, get a lawyer, for instance, get a career civil servant, get somebody from the public service. They don't have to be from the police, because this in itself is a management position.
As it mentioned, among the 5 that were interviewed, about 2 were women, and one of them was from the Department of Criminal Investigations. But even as we're taking a look at those who were interviewed, albeit closed door, does this mean that even if this position, as stipulated in the Constitution, should be a woman's, we should not give it to the most competent of those interviewed? Or how would you have wanted this to happen?
First of all, why would you shortlist men for a position that you want to fill with women? If the intention was to fill it with a woman, they would have only shortlisted women, because they already had the IG and the other deputy IG. So there was no need to shortlist men for this position. It was an outright violation of the Act. What I keep saying, and I have told this to Inspector Nkaissery, the CS, is that this is a management position. Go to the university, hire a professor. There are women professors. Go to the public service, hire a senior public service servant who's been serving, who knows administration. It is about management. It is not about carrying a gun. It's not about policing. And that's where our point of divergence arises. Secondly, the 2 women that were interviewed, what was wrong with them? Nobody is telling us why were they not selected. Why did they not choose Judy Chebet, who is currently the chairperson of Kenya Women in Police Service? Why didn't they choose Mary Kahuyo?
According to an article in the paper, it's that they came 4th and 5th respectively.
But because they were being ranked amongst men. This is a position they should have just ranked those women. If the only competent women were 2, they should have interviewed those 2. That was enough choice to choose from. But to go and put 3 men and 2 women, we are already creating discrimination.
When we're looking at the argument put forward last year by the Interior Cabinet Secretary that there is no woman who is competent enough to take up that position, and hence the reason why they had to replace Kaindi with Joel Kitili, what does that really say about our country and the force, to be specific?
They have refused to reform the force. The force was created as a force for men. Just look at even the junior recruitment. The recruitment that has just happened in the last, I think, 2 months, they were supposed to meet the 2/3 target. What have they done? They'll go to a station like Bomet, pick 28 men and 1 woman. Go to Kitili, pick 20 men and 1 woman, or 2 women. How is that 2/3 gender? How are you going to be able to bring up these people to the level whereby they can compete for these jobs. Because when you, and the argument that I've received from the IG and the CS was that this is a volunteer service. But it's only volunteer for as long as you coin the terms of reference and show that only men can fill these jobs. I disagree. Many, many police services in the world all over, Israel, are manned by women, the US. So why Kenya? We have a very educated populace. Ours, if you look at the student ratio now in the university, you'll see we have 40-60 women and men. We're almost coming at 50-50. So you cannot tell me that there are no competent women who have gone through the systems, who are educated enough to come to that level, because you need a certain level of education, and who have what it takes as managers, who have managed successfully institutions, and who can fill those jobs. It's only that they have kept it inside a certain box, certain parameters. You must be a serving policewoman, you must have served for this number of years, and that locks out everyone. I, for instance, would want to be the IG or the deputy IG. And what's wrong with me?
Would you love to be considered for such a position?
Oh yes, oh yes. If the position is enlarged enough to include my qualifications, for which I am a lawyer, 25 years in practice.
So what role does FIDA play when you talk about this gender discrimination in the force and beyond? Where do you come in to help neutralize the situation, so to speak?
Well, okay, what we do is we are a human rights organization for women. We are looking to claim the rights that exist in our laws for women. And therefore, we go to court on public interest litigation, like this particular case, to say that the Constitution of Kenya must be upheld, and everyone, be it man, woman, must gain from it the way it is drafted. The law is very clear. The problem is not the law. The problem is the implementers of the law. And because we've come from a patriarchal society, we keep saying we must break the doors that bind us together in a system that does not see women as equal human beings.
So moving forward, this particular case is one that you say you will not abandon. What activity are we expecting to see from FIDA?
We are back in court today, as we speak. We are back in court. We want this appointment nullified, and that position to be competently filled by a woman. We believe and we hold the view that there are enough women in Kenya to take up this job and many other jobs that the Constitution has created for them. And that's why we've been pushing Parliament to come up with a way, a system of making sure that even governors are now going to be meeting that threshold of 2/3 gender. So that if we have 47 governors, at least 1/3 of those governors should be women. 47 senators, 1/3 of those should be women. Members of Parliament, similarly, in both appointive and elective positions. 27th August, if by that time Parliament has not come up with a mechanism to even get to know how to fill if there are gaps in election, because elections, as you say, they are competitive.
Yes.
If by 27th, then of course we stand to face a Parliament that is not constitutionally set up.
Are you disappointed that that 2/3 gender rule failed to pass in Parliament twice?
We were not just disappointed. It was, I can't tell you, I can't even begin to describe how we felt. We were crushed. It was terrible. Because we worked for the last, since the ruling of the Supreme Court in 2012, we've been working with the Attorney General. We were in the working group. FIDA was part of the technical working group that was set up by the Attorney General to come up with the legislation. And we put in a lot of time and resource in getting that bill to get to where it was, only for the members of Parliament to stay away and refuse to do their duty.
Is this lack of political goodwill? Do you think this is intentional from members of Parliament,
and
which
even
is largely
itself,
dominated by the men?
Both members of Parliament, because their role is to make law. But if the leadership takes this 2/3, as part of its agenda, it will pass. But what happened in the first round of voting, the president says, I support the bill. But what did he do? He went to Kitili with half of the MPs from TNA and from Kitili. So where were the numbers? Second time, people just stood outside Parliament. We saw it on TV that they were standing outside Parliament when people were inside voting.
Don't you think?
So that shows both members of Parliament are paying lip service to this bill, but they're not passing it.
Don't you think the female members of Parliament failed to convince their colleagues why indeed they should pass this particular bill?
Why would they have to convince them? Why is it a women agenda?
The argument that the men are putting forward is that women want free seats that they have not worked for. Are we bringing up a society where women should be treated as this special group, which we always have and we really appreciate, but should it be about a woman who should be, a seat should be created for you simply because you're a woman? That is the argument that the men are putting forward.
I want to dissuade Kenyans that the gender agenda is not about women. The two-thirds gender is not about women. Today in Rwanda, we have more women in Parliament than men. In Rwanda, just next door, 56% of the parliamentarians in Rwanda are women. So we will come to a time when those same men will require to benefit from that clause. And it is important for people to understand, two-thirds gender rule is not about women. It's about both men and women. And affirmative action just comes in as a stopgap measure to make sure that where there are shortcomings, be it for men or for women, then some things are done to make sure that those gaps are filled. That's why Article 177 of our Constitution was clear in how we were going to achieve gender equality or two-thirds gender in the county governments. And we were able to go through what they call the party list and nominate MCAs to fill up those gaps. We don't have a problem in the county governments. We don't. And that's where there is a larger number of people. But it is not about women. And it is important for you to understand that if you look at our parameters now at the education sector, there will come a time when women are on top.
So is this a notion?
Will require that two-thirds gender.
Is this a notion that the male members of Parliament have failed to understand?
I don't believe they have failed. It's just a question of self-preservation. They want to make sure that there is no room for people to come and find out what happens in Parliament to challenge them next. Because if you see now when the affirmative action took place and we have 47 women in Parliament, there is fear already from the men that they are now eyeing their constituencies because you understand constituencies have an advantage over the county MPs because of the CDF management, they are smaller. So there is already that. And once the women are getting into the elective politics, once you get into nomination, you of course stand to understand a bit of parameters about politics, and you will be able to probably offer yourself and compete. Probably going forward, we hope that the 47 women will identify constituencies that they can vie for, and then we will not have to do this, to push a law to have nominations.
So will you also be vouching for gender equality in the county levels, in the devolved governments?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Yes, and we hope that Kenya can get to a point whereby we don't have to have this as a discussion. We are at 50-50 and everyone can get elected. The reason why our elections cut out a lot of women is because they're very violent.
All right. Thank you very much, Josephine. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana. That there, you've heard her. That is the chairperson of FIDE Kenya talking matters gender equality. And this discussion quite emanates from the appointment of Joel Kitili, former GSU commandant, as the Deputy Inspector General of Police post. He's been acting since September last year, and women are not quite happy with that decision. All right, we'll now take a short break, but coming back we will be looking at what is in the dailies and the budget. What do you think? Were you happy with the announcements from the budget that we got yesterday from the Treasury Cabinet Secretary Henry Rotich? Also, we have latest developments from the IEBC. We will be discussing that in a bit with political analyst Dismas Mukua. Do not go too far. This is KTN Morning Express.